Everybody. My name is Todd Nash, President of the Oregon Cattlemen's Association. I'm here today with Paulette Pyle. Paulette, you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. Again, I'm Paulette Pyle. I lived in Oregon for 40 years and worked there as a lobbyist for natural resources. And after retirement, we moved to Nampa, Idaho, went back to my state that I was raised in for the most part, and have worked in that state, close to Eastern Oregon, across the border for Congressman Bentz, which has been just the best job I could have. He's the greatest congressman. So recently stepped back from that job and we retired completely and we're spending time in Arizona. So that's my most recent trip, Todd.
Well, you deserve a little bit of a break. You've worked awfully hard for a long time. Paulette, tell us about your career with Oregonians for Food and Shelter and what that program does and the origins of it a little bit.
Okay, Oregonians for Food and Shelter was founded in 1980. I had just moved over from Idaho, where I worked for Congressman Steve Sims, and the timber folks and the ag folks were battling the environmental movement over the aerial application of phenoxy herbicides. And I received a call from them. Still haven't figured out who they knew who I was, but a call from them asking me if I would interview for the grassroots position with Oregonians for Food and Shelter, which was going to be an entirely new organization. And we coalesced agriculture and forestry and Main Street businesses in rural communities to help ag and forestry battle the environmental community. And I spent 36 years in that organization, helped found it, put all the organization together on the ground, the grassroots, and did the lobbying and the grassroots for 36 years, retired in 2015, and again moved over to Idaho. So that's a thumbnail sketch.
Well, you had a huge impact and a huge influence on what is agriculture in Oregon, and Paulette, when you would walk the halls of Salem there in the Capitol building, everybody knew Paulette, and you were so well respected there for what you did there and the fervor with which you represented those entities. Paulette, if you were going to give instruction to somebody that was in the process of trying to get a bill through or trying to advocate for a certain position, I know that's a broad statement, but how would you go about that in Salem, and how did you go about that in Salem?
Well, number one is when I take on a job, I'm a passionate advocate. And I always said, when I say my prayers at night, I always thank the good Lord for giving me the career I had, because my love and heart and passion was there. I love rural America. So that number one is, I think, being really passionate and caring a lot, because defending agriculture and timber, natural resources in general, is a huge job. And you can't do it halfway. Secondly, I always thought that to be a good lobbyist, it had to start long before people came to Salem, long before legislators showed up, during their run for the legislature. Know them, know their background, know what their passion is, know who their spouse is and what their background and their passion is, just the general individual, so you know what you're going to be dealing with when they get there. And of course, you do your homework. Every detail. And I was very blessed to have two partners while I was at OFS named Dave Dietz. And some folks will remember Dave. He was a fiery redhead, a lawyer, and very capable. And he left and Terry Witt came. Terry had a background in chemistry from Dow Chemical. So he understood completely the chemical industry, all the battles against the environmentalists and what the industry fought. And then I was the lobbyist and the grassroots person. So I had this partnership. And of course, we had Sandy Schuker in our office, who absolutely held us both together. No one, in fact, many times people tried to hire her away from her, but we paid her so well she wouldn't go, and she loved us anyway. Anyway, so I had a lot of help in being successful. I certainly didn't do it alone. But I think the fact that the matter is having your passion, really caring about natural resources in the rural parts of the state, and to knowing the legislators before they come to Salem, and then connecting with them on a level that they will connect back with you.
Okay, really good advice. Paulette, another thing that I've noticed about you is you are a tremendous communicator. You communicate early, often, and you make sure all the loops have been closed and all the knots have been tied. I probably don't have to ask you how important that is, but I'm going to ask you anyway, because I'm often surprised at how poor people in powers of position communicate. But regardless of that, you've made sure that all of those things get done when you're involved.
That's true. Communication is everything. I should have put that in my little spiel a minute ago. Without communication, you can't be successful. And that means in every facet of life. And I happen to be, all my personality tests direct me to being an expressive driver. I'm an expressive, and I'm certainly a driver. So, and I communicate often. I was a lobbyist that I didn't go home at night till the last legislator left the building. I wanted to make sure that whatever we needed was taken care of, because I know that a lot of stuff goes on after lobbyists leave. And many of them did. Many of them played golf. Many of them did some fun things. And I probably didn't enjoy as many things as I should have. But and I communicate early and often. You're right. I mean, the minute we know we have a bill, I am in every office. And then as Terry and I got the bill analyzed and put together, I was in the office. I went back several times. And so, yeah, without communicating, you can't even be successful in life at any level, I don't believe. And you're right about the powers. There's so many offices, both at state, federal, and all, that there really is no communication, not even among staff. And I've never figured that out, but it happens. And it's too bad, because it doesn't do anybody justice. I thank you for that compliment, because that's something I worked really hard on, is to communicate. Yeah,
you're a master at it. And some of it takes a lot of energy staying there till the last legislator goes home. Wow, that's a lot of dedication there. Paulette, going back to your career, what is one of the most memorable wins that you felt like you had there for Oregonians for Food and Shelter?
Well, it wasn't just me. I had lots of help from folks like the cattlemen, the Farm Bureau, the forest products industry. I mean, loads of help. But I'd say our most memorable win was getting a pesticide preemption bill passed, which means that you couldn't regulate the tools and anything defined as a pesticide. And some of that stuff is even probably the medicines you use with your cattle. But they couldn't regulate pesticides below the state level. EPA had delegated that authority to our Oregon State Department of Agriculture. And prior to that, we were fighting school boards, we were fighting county commissioners, we were fighting city councils, mayors. We were really in the battle of our life, and spread really thin. But we got together as a coalition, which was a purpose of OFS, is to put everybody together and help each other out. And of course, we took the lead on it, but that was probably our most memorable. The other one was, and we were right in there with them, probably 1 and 2, the Farm Bureau took the lead on doing a right to farm and forest bill. And it was a right to farm and forest bill prior to them getting, putting that bill in the hopper, but it was a really scantily a spineless bill just on right to farm. And we all got together, and of course, us interested in the pesticide side of things, we were right there with them. So we got a really strong right to farm and forest bill passed with the leadership of Farm Bureau and us and cattlemen and everybody in the mix with us. Those are my two proud moments.
Okay, and very substantial, of course. Paulette, you've always kept a really positive attitude when in the time that I've known you. And one of the things that for me, when you talked about your life as a child and what took place there, really inspired me, how you described that, and you having the best childhood that anyone could possibly have. But there were some real challenges there. Do you want to talk about that just a little bit? And I don't want to pin you down on something real personal to you, but I think that positive attitude from a young child to an adult has served you very well. And I think it could probably serve others too.
Well, Todd, I don't mind talking about my childhood. I've only done that in recent years. My children or my grown adult children are just learning a whole lot about me. I'm the oldest of 8 children, and I was born to parents after World War II. My dad came out of the war, met my mom at Fort Benning, Georgia, and they went back to Iowa, where my dad was from, and that's where I was born. And then we went to Idaho because our grandparents moved out to southeast Idaho. 2 siblings were born, and then my parents decided to go back to Georgia. And then 5 more siblings were born. And for some reason, which I guess I'm not going to get into because I really don't know, our folks split up and they went their separate ways. And thank goodness that our grandma Beauvais from southeast Idaho had communicated with the Catholic priest in Tifton, Georgia, and let him know that 2 of her grandchildren needed to go to mass and needed to go to catechism. And it was just, and that's all really important because when our folks left, it was Father Frederick, who was a wonderful Franciscan, and Miss Margaret, as we call her, she just passed away at 100 years old. Her family made sure at the designation of father that we got to church and catechism. Well, when our parents left, they put us in a children's home in Savannah, Georgia, St. Mary's Children's Home for Girls. And we had a brother that went to St. Joseph Children's Home for Boys in Washington, Georgia. We were there probably 6 to 8 months. Very strict but loving nuns, the Order of the Mercy Nuns. And then my aunt, my uncle worked for Union Pacific, and my cousin, who's down here in Arizona with us, Renee, came to Georgia and brought us back to Idaho. And we were put in a children's home at Cul-de-sac, Idaho, which is, I'd say, north of Lewiston, south of Lewiston. Anyway, in the Lewiston area. And we lived there until we graduated from 8th grade and went on and had foster parents in high school. But it's interesting with me, maybe that goes to the positive attitude. I had siblings say that I operated with rose-colored glasses, that I never saw negatives. And I will be honest with you, Todd, I don't remember negatives in my childhood. All I can remember is I was old enough to see my parents have a challenge and difficulty being parents. And so I always thought it was a huge blessing that the nuns in my church were able to take care of us. I mean, it was magnificent. And I hear stories about nuns being mean. I remember nuns being very strict, but I don't remember nuns being mean. And I have one sister that says, yeah, she and certain nun didn't get along. Well, I may not have gotten along with all of them, but I don't remember them being mean. And we went to foster parents out of 8th grade, and the nuns ensured that when we went out of the children's home, that no one could change our name and that we had to be connected. We went to a school called St. Gertrude's Academy in Cottonwood, Idaho, and graduated from there. and we all kind of lived in the same area, and we were together a lot and went to, maybe two different churches, Catholic churches, but we stayed connected. That's kind of the brief overview of my childhood, but we were raised as orphans in two different children's homes by Catholic nuns, and it was just an enormous blessing for us.
Yeah, and I've heard you describe that before, and there'd be people out there that would let them drag them backwards for the rest of their life. You look forward, and you've achieved more than most people could ever fathom, and the respect that you had in Salem, the respect that you have around Oregon. And when Representative Bentz ran for Congress, or Senator Bentz, I guess at the time, ran for Congress, and Paulette would make a call on his behalf, it had gravity, and everything that you do has gravity, because you've built a trust, you've built a legacy, and you will forever be remembered down in Salem and around Oregon, and I'm sure in Idaho as well. But people absolutely love you, Paulette. I've never heard anybody say a bad word about you, and it's been wonderful getting to know you a little bit, getting advice from you occasionally, and I look forward to calling you from time to time with some advice into the future.
Todd, you can always call me. Maybe I should add that when we learned that Congressman Walden wasn't going to run again, I called Senator Bentz and I said, if you decide to run, I will sign up. I'll volunteer all my time to put the ground game together for your primary. And I'm so proud of him. It was probably other than the job I had for 36 years and raising my wonderful family, who are, like, knock on wood, perfect. We have 6 kids, married successfully, 16 grandkids, and now going on to great grandkids. Just have this wonderful family. I'm proud of all that. But getting involved with Senator Bentz, knowing the challenges we have politically and natural resources, that was always my focus, was probably my most proud moment. He has really made me proud, and I just have been so blessed to get to work with him and learn so much from him. And I appreciate your comments about the trust. I hope you're right. I mean, when you're in a battle for 36 years, you've got to have some adversaries out there, but I've always worked hard to be honest and work hard and stand up for what I believe. So my life's been blessed.
Yeah, thank you. Is there something here that we didn't cover today that you would like to say?
No, except for I miss everybody. I'm going to miss everybody. I would say that Todd Nash is top of that list. Todd, you and a couple of other commissioners, county commissioners, when we called and asked for you to support us, you didn't just support us, you rolled up your sleeves and went to bat to get endorsements for Congressman Bentz, and you were very successful. Things in a primary that we didn't think we could accomplish, and we wouldn't have without you and without others in the county commissioner realm. Particularly, I've learned to love and appreciate county commissioners like I probably didn't before, because I didn't know you as well. And so I will close out by saying I've always appreciated the cattlemen and the Farm Bureau and the wheat growers and the forest products industry for all the coalitions they put together so we at OFS could be successful. It was always a huge team effort. And and Tammy in your office, she and I've worked together for a lot of years, and I love Tammy. And I'll tell you why, just so I give her a plug. She's organized. She's a good writer. When you have a coalition meeting and say, I need white papers from everybody, Tammy's was always the first one done. And she was just a loyal friend, and she's that way with her clients too. So that's what I would say. But Todd, thank you more than anyone. You've really been a dear friend and a loyal, committed individual for Congressman Bentz.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's humbling. I'm going to wrap this up here, and we'll visit again here real soon, Paulette. But
Okay,
yeah,
Todd.
yeah, don't forget where we live, and come visit often.
Well, you do the same when you're in our neck of the woods. If you're in Ontario, I'll come over and have lunch with you. If you're halfway there, I'll come and have lunch with you. So, okay, well, thank you.
Sounds good. All right.
Okay, bye-bye now.